Hi gamers, it's John Arnhem, the Indie Detective here with you, and it's the weekend, which means it is time for some more indie game reviews. From Steam's Greenlight and Cherry Pie Games, we've got Tacopocalypse, a crazy mix-up of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Crazy Taxi. In our first indie game retrospective, we're looking at space colonization sim Maia from developer Simon Roth. And last but certainly not least, having just sold 1.3 million copies, we're going to be reviewing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. If this is your first time joining us on the Indie Detective, we go pretty fast, but try to keep up. We do 3 things for each game. First thing is a basic overview of the game, kind of how the genre and everything works, whether it is multiplayer or not. Second thing, we cover some gameplay basics, a basic tutorial if you will, and how things run on your average computer. And the third thing is we cover viability and value, especially important for these early access titles, whether these games are worth your time and money, and whether they will continue to be far into the future. Now the introductions are done, let's move on to our first review. We have today Tacopocalypse. It's not often I feel like a video game was designed specifically for me, to tickle all my little nostalgia nerves, but if there's a game out there that was designed just for that guy, just for that teenage rebel, this would be the one. Now what I said before, that this is a mix-up of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Crazy Taxi, that's a pretty apt analysis, and I'm pretty sure that all the reviews you'll read about this game say exactly the same thing. This is a game perfect for those gamer guys and gamer gals aged 25 to 35 who grew up right in that gamer generation. It's got a color palette reminiscent of Jet Set Radio Future from 2002, it's got a post-punk alt-rock soundtrack in the background that's just super engaging, and it's got all the tricks that you'd expect from a late 90s, early 2000s trick skating game. All the negative reviews seem to say about the same thing about this game, that it lacks in content, and they're not wrong. There's only 2 unlockable cars, a handful of unlockable soundtracks, and paint jobs for your cars, so you can pretty much unlock everything in, I don't know, 6-7 hours of gameplay. But unlockables are never what made these games great in the first place. It was trying to beat your buddy's best score. Unless you were really into trying to unlock Matt Mira or the new Ford Mustang, then these games were really about trying to get the perfect ways to do every single trick on every single map. Well, that seems like a natural place to put in a segue into the gameplay section of this video. So this game, it's very small, but it's based on perfection and replayability. There's only 4 maps, and they're designed to challenge, requiring you to control the car perfectly. So you have to keep the car oriented in exactly the right way in order to get your boost and your jump to do exactly what you want it to. It's also, all of the levels are designed with verticality in mind. And the vertical gameplay is based on your jumps and your ability to ride guardrails, so those are skills that you really need to perfect early on. Now, the scoring mechanic is just out of Crazy Taxi. It's all about getting tips for the deliveries of the tacos that you make, and the harder the delivery, the more money you make in tips. So you want to get the ones that are higher off the ground or in more obscure places in order to really maximize your output. But nobody's tipping big bucks just for a taco delivery in the middle of an apocalypse, so what you have to do is perform tricks to build up a multiplier, and that multiplier increases the amount of money that you get for every single delivery, and that's how you get to the top of a leaderboard. Now, like I said, there's not a lot of unlockables in this game, but there are 2 cars that you can unlock, one of which just dropped in a recent patch called the Vendetta. But once you unlock those 2 cars, you can go around and find all the paint jobs for them across the different maps. You're pretty much done. This is where we start talking about the viability and value of the product. Now, viability is not much of a problem because it's pretty much a finished product and it's only $10 on Steam, so even if you hate it, it's not like you're wasting a lot of money. But value is where I really see this product shining, because even though it's a completed product, the developers have already released that new Vendetta vehicle and some extra soundtracks that you can find scattered throughout the maps. Now that makes 2 patches in just under a month that this game's been out. It's only sold about 4,000 copies, so what I think is that means it's probably going to go on sale sometime in the near future, definitely going on sale during the Steam Summer Sale. And one last comment that I'll make that's been verified by the comments on this game is that because of the graphical simplicity, just about any computer can run this. So I give it a thumbs up on value and a thumbs up on viability. I really enjoyed this game, and I bet that for 10 bucks you'll get your money's worth out of it and your time's worth out of it too. Now for my second review, I was going to talk about an indie game called Into the Darkness of the Sea, but it turns out that 5 minutes of that game was all I needed to see in order to get the grip of the entire thing that was available, so I decided to talk about something else. I saw a developer that I follow on Twitter named Simon Roth posting something about the frustum culling controversy that's been talked about this last week, so I decided to go back and look at the game that he's been designing called Maia. Or he pronounces it Maia. Whatever it is, I bought this game at the end of 2013 when it was first released on Steam Early Access, and he's still updating it today, 2 years later. So he had some really choice words to say about the Early Access program, and it seems to make a lot of sense now in retrospect. So this is my first indie game retrospective about Maia, a space colony management simulation. Now, I probably mentioned that I really like colony games, and I especially like space colony games. There's a game called Planet Base that I'll probably make a video about eventually, and unlike other space games, it really doesn't want you to win. Simon himself called this a dark, hopeless, uncontrollable spiral into death. And when your first 3 colonists die because either your potato plants all died, or you forgot to put in a water fountain, or they got trapped inside of a room without a door, you'll see exactly what I mean. As a resource management game, this game is completely unforgiving. First off, you can't issue orders directly to your colonists like you can in most games. You just have to issue general build directives and hope that they can actually follow them. Secondly, resources are really hard to produce. You have to get plants growing way ahead of time in order to have enough food for yourself, but that takes up resources that could otherwise be used elsewhere. Personally, I've yet to find a way to get this colony going without losing at least a couple colonists. But fortunately, you can call down an endless number of extra colonists, all in the name of setting up this colony for Great Britain. So all you can do is keep digging and hope that eventually you'll reach a point of resource stability, but then there's also natural disasters you have to deal with. Animals can invade your base and eat all your food. When you're mining, you can hit packets of lava that, unless you have a bulwark door in the way, can wipe out your entire base and all of your colonists. It's just a mess. So that's the basics of the game, but what I really wanted to talk about here in the retrospective is the early access and Kickstarter that this game needed in order to get off the ground. Now, the Kickstarter for Maia started in early 2013, and by August of 2013, Simon and his group were able to deliver an early access product to the Kickstarter backers. And then by December of 2013, there was an early access product available on Steam, and that's where I purchased the game. Now, Simon recently posted a YouTube video where he talked about his experience with Steam Early Access and why he would never do it again. Basically, he got bottlenecked with a bunch of people issuing support tickets saying that their game wouldn't run, and that in turn led to him getting just bludgeoned with negative reviews on his game. So on the one hand, he had gamers whose game did work who demanded more and more content, and on the other hand, he had gamers whose games didn't work who demanded that he fix it for their obscure systems. What it boiled down to is that nobody was happy and he wasn't able to get out nearly enough content for the people to stay happy. He estimates that if he had just taken an extra 6 months worth of time before releasing a product, that it probably would have saved him 18 months of headache, and he would have been able to deliver a far more complete product at the end. So what Simon said he'll do in the future and what he recommends for other indie developers is to spend that time working on your game and only release to the people who are backing you on Patreon, who are really invested in your title, rather than trying to go through Steam's early access and just opening it up to the public. Now, I'm an avid consumer of indie games and early access titles, and it really hurts me to see that a developer like Simon would consider never using Steam's early access again. And I think it really speaks to a failure on Steam's part for allowing people with obscure systems to come in and buy this game and then write negative reviews and support tickets when they really had no business getting into the game in the first place. Anyway, that's the end of that short rant on early access. I'm going to put a link to Simon's video on his experience with early access in the description below, so check that out if you haven't before. If you want to check out Maia, the game is now functional. It's kind of fun, but it's mostly punishing. I restart this game a lot. There is still work to be done, especially on the UI and the controls. Like, it's pretty annoying that I can't actually tell how much supply I have left, and holy shit is it annoying if I'm using the building tool, right-click in the middle of a constructed room, and it deletes the entire room around it. Damn, that sucks. But on the other hand, Simon and his team are still rolling out updates more than 2 years after launch. So if you want to check it out, it's 50% off on Steam this weekend. It's the 21st right now, so it ends the 24th. So if you want to see what's new in 0.61, this would be the time to get it. The recent updates have added a lot of content, like the ability to tame local ecology, conduct research, and tap into geothermal vents that were previously not implemented. And Simon also runs a Patreon that currently is only collecting about $224 a month. So if you want to support an indie dev, just throw a couple dollars his way, and that's an even better way to do it. So to sum up this retrospective, this game joins a few of my other games like Subnautica and The Long Dark in a list of games where I'm going to be watching their patch notes religiously. Now, cards on the table, I do like those other two games better. Subnautica has an almost episodic release schedule, and The Long Dark's content releases are huge, so I have to play a whole new playthrough every time they drop something new. But you've really got to applaud Simon's stick-to-itiveness. There's nothing worse in the indie game sphere than a company that'll just take the money, shut down the production, and run. And Simon, 2 years of making extra patches, that's something to be applauded. That being said, there's got to be an end game here. You can't just stay on this quixotic quest to finish a game for another 2 years. Cancel some promises if you have to. I think this game can do without a campaign, but you've really got to find a way to wrap something up, call it a 1.0 release, and say that the game is done sometime in the near future. Retrospective over! Time for another review! Oh my god, guys. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I can't wait to talk about this game because I've been having so much fun playing it this last week. And so have a lot of other people, apparently, with 1.3 million copies sold and a concurrent playing record of 105,000 players set on Thursday. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, guys. If you haven't heard of this, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but this indie hit is fantastic, and I can't wait to talk about it. Here we go. I tried to sum up this game in a few words, and I came up with this. It's an indie hit from an industry veteran. It's a 100-person, fast-paced battle royale strategy game, and a merciless alpha release. The player unknown from the title, this guy's name is Brendan Green, and he's really an industry giant. This guy created the DayZ Battle Royale mod for Arma, and he consulted on the H1Z1 King of the Kill game, and so he's really known for his Battle Royale mods. Now, this is pretty much the gold standard for early access titles. It's playable by a wide variety of people and a wide variety of systems, although it is buggy. Let me just say that up front, you will deal with bugs. But that's something that you sign on for when you get an early access title. But people are apparently okay with it. It made $11 million in its first 3 days, and last week, like I said, it hit 100,000 concurrent players. And according to Steam Spy, this game is rapidly closing in on King of the Kill, which was free if you bought H1Z1, and it already has double the average playtime per player of that game. Moving into our game overview, it's super easy to get into this game. You can go either solo or duo or team queues, and right now there's like no queue time because there's 100,000 people playing with you, and you have an option to enable an auto matching mode so that if you want to play on a team but you're by yourself, you can jump into one. A cargo plane picks a random route over the gigantic map, and you get to choose where on there you drop out. Now, there's random loot drops across the entire place, so your goal is to loot buildings, run, shoot, and survive, and be the last one alive, and you get rewarded with in-game currency for this. Now, don't worry, there's no way to buy the in-game currency, so it's definitely not pay to win. The only thing you get out of it is more cosmetic items, so unless you really think fingerless gloves are going to up your gameplay, there's no problem with the in-game currency. Moving on to the gameplay basics. Like I said, the cargo plane chooses a random route and you get to choose where to jump. So you can pick whether you want to go into a crowded city filled with loot or go backwards running between solitary cabins. What it boils down to is how many people you want to fight right off the bat. Some people will even end up going hand to hand before they can even find a pistol, and you'll see people getting knocked out in the first few seconds of a match. And the map is littered with loot for any kind of playstyle, whether you prefer a shotgun, a sniper, or an SMG. Some of it's more rare and only comes in via special care packages from airdrops. In order to keep players moving and running into each other, the play area shifts and shrinks, and staying outside that zone for long enough will kill you. At the end of the match, if there are still too many people left alive, it'll decide to just kill everyone. The play area will shrink out, take away everyone's health, and the last man standing wins. Because of this mechanic, games seldom last for more than a half an hour. It takes less than 5 minutes to get back into a queue and back into a game, so it's easy to shrug off losses, rinse, repeat, and get back going again. As far as viability and value goes, it is $30, so it's the most expensive game on today's list, but I've already put 19 hours worth of gameplay into it. Even though I've been fighting bugs the entire way, I've really enjoyed my time, and I definitely think it's been worth my money so far. The game still needs a ton of optimization though. As I'm sure you've seen in some of this gameplay, some of my assets don't load. I've been hitting a lot of lag, but they did just release their first huge patch, which was supposed to alleviate some of the lag problems, and I know they're working hard on doing even more to eliminate server-side lag, which should help every player across the game. That is, if Brendan Green and Bluehole keep working on the game, there is always a temptation for game designers that make $40 million in their first 3 weeks to just take the money and run, but keep in mind this guy's name is on the packaging. It'd be like if Sid Meier's decided to just stop updating a Civilization game. There's tons of opportunity for them to make more profit, release DLC, and monetize the shit out of this game. I don't see Bluehole going anywhere anytime soon. So what all that boils down to is a big thumbs up on viability and value. This game is very nice and fun. Well, I mean, not so nice. It's a pretty mean game, but I've never been disconnected. They are releasing more and more content. They just added a crossbow into the game, which I've only ever seen one person get a kill with, but that means that there's more on the horizon, and I can't wait to see what PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has for us next. Well, gamers, that is all I've got for you today. Thanks for stopping by and spending some time with us here on the Indie Detective channel. If you've got a game that you want to see, drop us a comment down below and tell me what you want to see reviewed. Also, if you want to see the newest in indie game titles, hit the subscribe button and you'll get gameplay videos throughout the week and our new 3-game review episode at the end of every week on Fridays. So thanks for stopping by, gamers. I hope to see you next week, and always, stay gaming and support your indie developers. Hey gamers, the Detective here. We've got these handy little links to one of our playlists. You can see all of our gameplay videos and episode 1 of the Indie Detective reviews right there in that other link. Don't forget to check the description below to follow us on Twitter or on Facebook /The Indie Detective and see all the other links to support the developers who are mentioned in this video. Thanks a bunch, gamers. See you next week.